Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Allison, and on behalf of the Center of Excellence for Hospitality Resilience, I am pleased to welcome you to today's webinar on increasing lodging revenue in times of uncertainty, revenue management strategies for small lodging establishments. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is a webinar series intended to support small tourism and hospitality businesses as they navigate these unprecedented times as a result of COVID-19. By exploring topics related to operations, health and safety, marketing, risk management, contingency planning, and innovation, we hope to provide meaningful and relevant insight in relation to current small business issues to help you understand and respond to the changing landscape. This series is brought to you by the Center of Excellence for Hospitality Resilience, a joint initiative of Temple University's School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management and Temple's Small Business Development Center. The presentation is recording and a follow-up document will be sent to all the attendees. All of the attendees have been muted, but we do encourage you to post any questions you have in the chat or using the Q&A function, and we will do our best to get all those answered for you at the end of the presentation. So now I will turn the floor over to today's panelist, Michael Sheridan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to share my screen here so you have the full presentation. So thank you, Olivia, as well. Just some housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to post them in the chat or the Q&A portion. And we'll try to get to those toward the end based on time available, okay? So thank you to the Small Business Development Center for inviting me to speak on behalf of the Temple University School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management in conjunction with the Center for Hospitality Resilience. Today, I would like to discuss an extremely important topic: ways for various organizations within accommodations to generate revenue. With the presence of COVID-19, we are in the midst of uncertainty, disruption within our industry, within our livelihood. I want to provide some information on ways that organizations, even during these challenging times, can utilize in an attempt to optimize revenue. These are some of the initiatives that I want to present to you today. First, I'll provide a brief background on me and some of the information I'd like to convey. Then I'll provide some fundamental elements and brief history of revenue management based on accommodations. And following that, we'll take a look at some proven strategies that have been determined to be effective in smaller lodging establishments. Taking note that just about all of the things that we're going to review today are meant to add value to the guest without adding cost to the lodging establishment. And then finally, I'll wrap up with things while trying to answer some questions that you may have. So let me begin by talking about my favorite topic, me. So my name is Professor Mike Sheridan. I'm an associate professor of practice and the academic director of the Master of Science in Hospitality Management. Pretty much means I oversee our on-campus graduate level hospitality program. By associate professor of practice, I am primarily in the classroom, sharing some of my knowledge and experience with students, the industry leaders of tomorrow. I've been with Temple for about 8 years. Prior to joining academia, I spent much of my career in the trenches of the hospitality industry. In the early 90s, I began working in my first hotel as a housekeeper, cleaning toilets. Glamorous, right? The family that I worked for owned a handful of independent hotels. My interaction with guests drew me into the industry at much greater lengths. Over the course of the dozen or so years that I was with that organization, I continually climbed up that hotel ladder, from housekeeping to front office manager, and then eventually general manager. After serving as GM for about 5 or 6 years, I wanted to check out the industry from a different perspective. So I pivoted a bit from hospitality toward tourism. I accepted a position with Visit Philadelphia, the official tourism marketing agency for the Philadelphia region. Because they are primarily funded by the hotel sales tax, I worked closely as a liaison between Visit Philadelphia and the hotel community in Philadelphia. I served in that position for about 7 years, establishing relationships, serving on various boards, maintaining the region-wide hotel packages that were offered, and I also oversaw the online booking capabilities for the organization's website, visitphilly.com. During this time, I was fascinated with this tourism element, pricing, and booking capabilities. This led me to take advantage of additional opportunities to further my career, further my education, getting additional degrees, designations, and certifications, any chance that I could get to learn more that would help me in my role. One particular certification was in hotel revenue management. I completed this with Cornell. This led me to provide additional comprehension in value and pricing strategies and forecasting, market segmentation, and so much more. Following my time with Visit Philly, I took a role as Director of Revenue Management for Sofitel Philadelphia, a luxury hotel in the heart of Philadelphia's Rittenhouse Square, influenced by French design and traditions. As Director of Revenue, I was tasked to analyze sales data, market segmentation, forecast, and make pricing recommendations in ways to optimize revenue. I successfully served in that position for about 2.5, 3 years before being approached by the former dean of Temple STHM for a teaching opportunity. And here I am. So now you know. Now, before we begin, I want to know a little bit about you and your organizations that you represent. Well, I'm sure you had enough with elections and thought you were done with them. I'm going to ask you to head to the polls one more time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make live a poll to kind of tell me which type of accommodations organization you represent. So if you wouldn't mind, please take a minute or two to complete the poll. Just waiting for 1 or 2 more people to complete the poll. We'll end it in about 10 more seconds. Going to end the polling. Just a kind of recap of the poll. We have a wide array of people here in today's webinar. People from smaller hotels, Airbnbs, inns, B&Bs, and then of course other as well. So first and foremost, thank you all for joining. What I want to do now is I want to start by taking a look at just how the pandemic has had an impact on the small lodging sector of the industry. Since mid-March, we have undoubtedly been thrust into this situation. Without fail, just about every sector of every industry has been impacted. However, within the tourism and hospitality industry, we are feeling the greatest hit. According to the U.S. Travel Association, total spending in the U.S. by the end of this year is expected to take a 45% decline from last year's numbers. That's a loss of about $500 billion to our industry. That makes things difficult to swallow since we've been pretty much experiencing growth for this past several years. Now, while we anticipate a recovery, it's going to take some time. Forecasts indicate that by the end of 2023, We're going to be returning to levels that we encountered around 2017 and hopefully fully recovering by 2024. Now, local, state, and federal mandates have also played in the declining numbers within accommodations. In most municipalities, properties were immediately impacted by the rules made to help flatten the curve. People across the world immediately canceled trips and quarantined. In addition, if any accommodations did have any business on the books, they were expected to cancel and even refund without penalty. As the numbers for the coronavirus increased, the level of fear increased as well. Even avid travelers were, and to some extent still are, reluctant to travel for fear of contracting COVID-19. And even worse, transmitting it to someone that may have a compromised immune system. Unfortunately, we just saw a number of properties that just simply shut their doors. Now, those organizations that attempted to keep their doors open and remain an option for those that were still willing to travel or had to travel for whatever reason, they fought an uphill battle because the dwindling demand was just not enough to keep their business afloat. Knowing all this, knowing the effects of COVID-19 may last for a little bit longer, the idea is that today we can provide some help, some relief by sharing some foundational elements behind lodging revenue management. Hotel revenue management is all about selling the right room to the right customer at the right price at the right time. What we're basically trying to do is sell our inventory and attempt to do it and be as profitable as possible. So let's take a look at that. We break out this long run-on sentence here. Well, what do we mean by the right product? Here we're talking about our room inventory. That might have to do with what floor it's on, what kind of view it has, how large is it, does it offer any special amenities? The right customer. Well, maybe this is a guest from a particular market segment, maybe a customer from a business that we're vying after, or maybe it's a customer or a guest from a particular group. Maybe it's an individual guest or even someone part of a niche market segment. The right price? Well, everyone is going to value things differently. This could depend on what the demand is like in the city at some time. Sometimes lower rated pieces of business may be available, sometimes not. At the right time. When will they be staying with us? Some guests prefer a different time of week or a weekend or even a different time of year. Through the right channel? Well, what is the best way for that particular person to book their accommodations? If we keep these elements in mind as we are developing our business strategies, it will assist in the implementation of successful revenue management initiatives. So, to begin, we can talk about the origins of revenue management. So this concept of revenue management, it's fairly new, okay? If we talk about the existence of travel and tourism, revenue management actually began in the airlines in the 70s. Initially, airline routes and fares, they were very heavily regulated by the federal government. And then in 1978, following the deregulation of the US airline industry, a huge amount of changes took effect. The purpose of this deregulation was to remove government oversight and control over fares and the ability for new airlines to enter market. Subsequently, airlines began to compete for fares. They began to compete for passengers and to compete for new routes. We then saw an influx of low-cost suppliers. These low-cost airlines began to actually eat into the market share, taking away business from the larger carriers that have been around for a while. And these legacy airlines, they were forced into these price wars. This actually became a huge problem. Airlines began undercutting each other on fares just to gain a few passengers. This really wasn't helping anyone, especially the industry. One of the legacy airlines at the time, American Airlines, they understood that this was a huge problem. As a larger legacy airline, their overhead was much higher than these low-cost airlines. So if they slash their prices to meet or beat their competitors, they'd be losing money. And we all know that it's no secret that if we're losing too much money, we're not going to be around too much longer. So the chairman of American Airlines at the time understood this problem, and he worked on a way to resolve the issue. So he created this team that pioneered a concept known as yield management. This was a way for airlines to maximize income by manipulating prices. And when I say manipulating prices, I mean controlling or influencing prices. So American Airlines was able to control and influence and manipulate their prices with super saver fares. They were priced very low, even lower than some of the discount airlines. There were restrictions put in place, right? There were advanced purchase restrictions, capacity controlled restrictions. They were non-refundable. You had to stay a certain night of the week within the destination. They were targeted to those situations where there was going to be a surplus of seats available on these flights. These discounted fares were continuously monitored so that they could maximize and effectively use them. By the implementation of this yield management, implementation of these super saver fares by American Airlines, they saw a 48% profit increase. Now, people often interchangeably use the terms yield management and revenue management, but there are some minor but key differences. When it was first introduced, yield management was more of a tactical measure than a narrow focus, right? It was more about selling a seat, selling an event ticket, booking a room, whatever, right? But now revenue management is seen as a further development of yield management, a more strategic approach that looks at the bigger picture, taking into consideration several more elements and implications. Now you know what revenue management is and you know the history behind it, and this is a great start. However, for revenue management to be effective, we need special or certain criteria to be present. If these characteristics are present, we can implement and benefit from revenue management. So we'll talk about four major elements here. The first being fixed capacity. Some businesses face few constraints or limits or restrictions on their potential sales. They can meet higher demand by producing more product. For example, if we sell pens, right? If we sell pens and the market dictates that they want more pens, well, we increase production as needed. On the other hand, if demand drops, we can lower the amount of pens that we manufacture or shorten the hours of operation and wait again until demand picks up. Businesses such as accommodations, they have fixed capacity. And with fixed capacity, these options don't exist. Fixed capacity is a huge constraint. Hotels have a finite number of rooms to sell. They can't sell more rooms than their total capacity, even if the demand is there. And the same capacity issue exists when the demand is low. Next, we have perishable inventory. Businesses that sell tangible, non-perishable products may use their inventory as a buffer. So if we think of some products, right? The new PS5, a pair of shoes, a bicycle, a pen. If these products do not sell on a particular day, oh well. It can usually be sold for the same price the very next day with no real loss of quality or value. Within the hospitality industry, that's not the case. Our inventory is highly perishable. It disappears completely if it goes unsold. Seats on an airplane. An empty seat can't be stored for another flight. Once that plane takes off, the opportunity to generate revenue for that seat is lost forever. Next, we have time variable demand. When we look at time variable demand, we can actually look at it in two ways. One of them is how demand varies by time of year or time of day or season. And this really can vary depending on the location or what type of hotel you are. At a business hotel, you're probably busier during the week than the weekend. At a resort, you're probably busier when you're experiencing nicer weather and other areas are experiencing colder weather. The other way we can look at time variable demand is length of stay. So again, for example, our business hotel, the average length of stay might be 1 or 2 nights, where at a resort or even a convention hotel, people might be staying a bit longer. We have to understand the length of stay because that's a component of how customers use the capacity of our lodging establishment. We can round out with high fixed and low variable costs. So what we mean by this, there are some expenses that are not impacted by occupancy. If a cost is not directly related by sales volume or occupancy, it's known as a fixed cost. For example, rent, mortgage payments, insurance premiums. They are constant regardless of our occupancy or sales volume. Usually the fixed costs are the bigger ticket, higher priced elements, okay? As opposed to our low variable costs. These are expenses that tend to increase as sales increases. So for example, if we have a restaurant, right? The more dinner sales, well, we need more food. Therefore, food is a variable cost. Accommodation, guest room supplies is another variable cost. If our lodging room sales increase, meaning greater occupancy, then we're going to need more supplies, maybe to turn them over, okay? So we need to identify that these criteria need to be present for us to be able to implement revenue management effectively. So as I said at the beginning, the strategies that I'd like to review with you this afternoon, while able to be used by pretty much any form of lodging, they have been designed with smaller and independent properties in mind, including those within home sharing and similar platforms. The idea that they would be applicable for inns, bread and breakfast establishments, Airbnbs, VRBOs, and the like. In addition, just about all of the items that are about to be reviewed are meant to add value for the guest without incurring any additional cost to the property themselves. So I just want to start by talking about some of the strategies that I want to present to you today. First and foremost, understanding your audience. Properties should be able to cater to different travelers' personalities, profiles, needs, and expectations. For example, the importance of shared spaces and social experiences to millennials and Gen Z people that has given rise to home sharing options, while busy travelers, especially business travelers and tech wizards, are in search of the integration of time-saving technology. Now, we're talking about tech wizards and business travelers. They appreciate innovations as they bring extra value by providing greater customization, convenience that allow them to be in control. These are elements such as contactless check-in, use of mobile technology for communication and electronic concierge, right? What does your guest want and what do they value? Because it is essential for us to understand who our guests are and why they are choosing to book a stay with our property, we should create individual hotel guest profiles. This will allow us to tailor messages and offer personalized offerings to them, okay? That being said, there are virtual concierge apps that can become a good source of revenue, a revenue accelerator in your guest's pocket, right? While there are fees associated with them, they allow guests to book rooms, add services, take advantage of deals. They manage the orders in real time. They understand clients' preferences and bring their travel experience to a new level. Research has shown that 86% of guests are ready to pay for a more greater customer experience. But how do we create a good customer experience? First, again, going back to that first tip, you need to get to know your guests and use this knowledge to deliver personalized experiences across their entire journey. If that goal is achieved, they'll come back and they'll share that message with others. Talking about that message. Secondly, you can collect and analyze feedback as well and make it easy for guests to leave a review. So TripAdvisor actually reported that more than half of travelers would not book any type of accommodation if they did not have any type of online reviews. Happy guests leave more positive reviews, so encourage them to write about their experience with you. In the hospitality industry, cancellations happen suddenly, whether they're caused by pandemics or unsettled elections or natural disasters or even due to tough competition. Lodging organizations need to step up and restore some of that business. To achieve this, find out what makes your property special to your guests, what they like the most, and what differentiates you from others. Competitive differentiation can take many forms. Through the focus of competitive differentiation, you can set your organization apart from your competition, right? Or even potential competition. Determine what makes your offerings different, more marketable, or of greater value, better than your competition. This could be things in your area. This could be things that your property has that no one else has. This could be leading to those reviews because you'll get information out of there that you may not otherwise realize. Once you find out this information, you should be able to communicate it, right? Communicate it on your website, your social media channels, any other marketing campaigns that you already may have in place. This may sound simple, but a warm welcome message before their arrival it'll do miracles for your guests. Most of us here today represent smaller lodging organizations. So this gives us that opportunity to do so. So take that opportunity to inform your guests before they arrive about your unique or special services. Talk about your parking. Talk about things that they can experience in the area. The value of a handwritten note is immeasurable. Simple things like a welcome packet, bottled water, a snack. They'll help you create that personalized bond. If the guest knows which taxi to order so they don't get scammed at the airport, or that they can check in early because they had a flight that arrived at 4 a.m. in the morning, this will make them truly feel at home. The hospitality industry is a people business. Even during these unprecedented times, guests want a unique, personalized, customized experience. Nowadays, just about everyone books via the internet, and a growing number of people book from their mobile devices. This means both your site and your own booking engine should be mobile friendly. With mobile bookings on the continual rise, it's now as important as ever to ensure your hotel works seamlessly on mobile so you don't lose potential bookers due to a bad user experience. Hopefully you're already doing this, but see if you're able to offer a competitive rate on your own site by direct booking rather than having a guest book on an OTA, an Expedia or whatever. Maybe you can even add online check-in or a digital guest experience to it. According to a research study that I recently came across, 76% of the total revenue in the lodging industry will be generated through online sales by the end of 2023. Leads may come in from third parties, but they still want to book direct with you. That's extremely important. This is known as the billboard effect. They come in one way through a third party, but they still book with you direct. Because hotels often pay as high as 30% commission on OTA bookings Lodging accommodations should prioritize a direct booking strategy year after year. Here are just a couple of ways on a way to win direct booking. I've already said it a couple of times. Ensure your website is easy to use and mobile friendly. As a director of revenue, a common fact that we lived by was that you lose 7% of your audience with every click that they make on the path to a booking. So make it easy for your guests to book their stay, okay? And as I've already said, offer a competitive price or a way to add value to people if they book with you directly. Maybe you can throw something on that really doesn't cost you anything, but it makes it more of a value-added element to the guests so they can book direct. And if you're able to install a booking engine, a way that people can book on your property's homepage, it'll, again, it makes things easier, makes it seamless for the guests to book so that there are no restrictions, limits, or constraints in their way. Demand forecasting is vital to maximizing revenue. It enables you to plan ahead and reflect on your pricing decisions later on. This allows you to learn from past mistakes and allows you to optimize for the future. As a result, your forecasting precision improves incrementally with actual demand, positioning to act on opportunities and minimize unexpected surprises, and thereby helping you to optimize your hotel's revenue potential. You should be able to understand, learn from your past to help forecast the future. Now, to successfully differentiate pricing by customer segment, each price difference must be explainable and justifiable. Potential guests need to feel that they are buying different products and services when they're paying different prices. Rate fences need to feel that rate fences in lodging revenue management are the elements that create this product differentiation. Rate fences are characteristics or conditions or rules that apply to a rate. They're generally used to prevent customers who are willing to pay higher rates. It prevents them from access to lower rated business. It puts a fence around that lower rated piece of business so only those people that should be getting it are, and it keeps the people that are willing to pay a higher rate somewhere else, okay? The secret is to design and offer products that combine the accommodations with these fences, right? These products must meet the needs of each segment and be priced accordingly. We know that business travelers are not price sensitive, right? So we can offer a particular price to them, but if we're also catering toward leisure travelers who are very price sensitive, we need to offer, if we're offering a more competitive lower rate, then we need to put restrictions around them. Maybe it's non-refundable. Maybe it doesn't include anything else. There are other types of fences that we can include, such as stay restriction, minimum length of stay. If you have a busy day in your destination, maybe we put some a minimum length of stay there. We make them stay 3 or 4 nights, so we're able to capitalize on the shoulder periods. Upselling is a smart and efficient way to encourage guests to spend more. This way of driving ancillary revenue can be applied online as well as offline. Online, you can use upselling tools which encourage guests to increase their spending by offering room upgrades or adding breakfast to their stay or adding a bottle of wine to their booking. Offline, upselling can be done upon arrival, maybe offering a last-minute upgrade at a special price or an extra service. When applying this method, we always need to be aware to be able to offer the right upgrades or right upselling opportunities to the right guest, okay? Now, upselling is a little bit different than cross-selling. Cross-selling can boost your revenue as well. While upselling is mainly focused on encouraging guests to spend more on the same product or service, Cross-selling is concerned with selling complementary or additional services. They can be add-ons or excursions, spa visits, things like that. Are there any concerts or events or special occasions occurring in your destinations? Make sure you're prepared for that. Make sure you know what's going on. You can sell tickets, team up with a hop-on, hop-off bus. Offer these experiences with an additional value-added element. As a result, the guests will enjoy the city more, your destination more, and then your hotel even earns more revenue, right? It's a win-win for both. A happy worker is a productive worker. These are words that I live by. Your employees are a reflection of you and your organization. If your staff is satisfied with their working conditions, pay, and treatment, then they will most definitely have more patience toward guests that aren't the friendliest, right? Not to mention, it'll be easier for them to be generally friendly. This is the key to a top-tier level of service. Guests will definitely notice if your employees go above and beyond their expected duties to make their stay perfect. This will have a spiraling effect. Your employees are treated well, their health and safety are top of mind, then they will be happy and they'll want to put a great amount of effort in their job. They'll take care of guests. They'll tend to their needs. Guests will recognize this. They'll reflect it in reviews, in social media posts, and ratings, and in return visits. Partnering with CVBs, DMOs, and everyone else. I want you to keep something in mind. A rising tide lifts all boats. There are a number of other organizations that have similar goal as your organization. Work with them. So a couple of things here. Convention and visitor bureaus, CVBs, and destination marketing organizations, DMOs, they're great partners. They share in the overall success of a destination. More people to your destination, the greater opportunity for you to experience additional demand. Have a seat at the table. CVBs and DMOs love it when hoteliers get involved with their organization. This allows you to have a seat at that table. Very often, a tax on accommodations or bed tax, they fund these types of organizations. If your guests are paying into their budget, why not make use of them as a resource? A perfect example, in Philadelphia, the DMO, they offer an array of services that likewise wouldn't be available to smaller lodging organizations. They offer something similar to a joint marketing program, which allows smaller organizations to be part of larger ad campaigns that would normally be financially out of reach. Many of the resources they are offer to those organizations paying into the bed tax, they offer at no charge because that bed tax is feeding into their overall budget. The more successful you are, the more financially successful they are as well. Another thing to keep in mind, remember that people visit a destination, not a specific lodging organization. Very often, their choice of lodging is made after the choice of destination has been selected. So as people are in the process of planning, they are visiting these sites of these DMOs and CVBs. By being a part of them, you have the ability to control your content on their sites. Take advantage of it. One final aspect of working with CVBs and DMOs, you may be developing your strategies and forecasting 12 months out, and that is great. However, CVBs, they're working on businesses on their books for their destination up to a decade out. Wouldn't it be great to know what's on the horizon for your destination? This knowledge is key to long-term goals and strategies. I say everyone else because although you are an important part of a guest experience, you're just that, a part of it. If you are able to partner with other organizations to further the guest experience, like restaurants, attractions, exhibitions, events, collaborating with like-minded businesses can prove to be extremely beneficial to your financial success. No secret here. Social media trends help hotels connect more with their guests. It's easy now to promote a hotel's services and activities via Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. What you should do is learn a bit about who uses each of these platforms. For example, Facebook shifted a bit, right? It's now more older, middle-aged people, right? And Instagram is the playground for the up-and-coming Gen Z group. Just because they're not fully grown up yet, it doesn't mean that they do not have money. And Gen Z will not purchase anything that has a bad review or no review at all. Try to post new information often. And remember that it's necessary to engage with guests' comments. Very often, social media platforms are underestimated, but they're also a great way to reach your guests. When using these digital tools, it's smart to develop a strategy in order to stay consistent and remain organized, right? A good first step is to choose what platforms to focus on, depending on your type of accommodation and potential guests you want to reach. These days, Instagram is a popular platform for hotels. Photos are an amazing interactive way to showcase your properties and its offerings, okay? Speaking of offerings, you want to make sure that you are offering the opportunity for guests to leave reviews. Online reviews and feedback can make or break your hotel's reputation. Before finalizing a hotel booking, most potential customers take a look at the hotel's reviews. In order to stay on top of your reviews and improve your brand's reputation, it is important to respond regularly to feedback, both positive and negative as well. In TripAdvisor's algorithm of their ratings and their listings, they actually include organizations' responses to reviews, okay? So by doing so, you can show your customer that you care and acknowledge their opinion. When guests see that you regularly respond, they're more likely to give feedback on their experience, which allows you to improve the different facets within their customer journey. Now, also when potential guests see a negative review and then notice that you've apologized and handled the situation professionally, they're more likely to perceive that bad review as an exception. It just happened. When replying to negative comments, you should be keeping in mind that you need to make sure that you recognize the feedback, you thank the person for it, and ensure that the issue is addressed and will not occur again. Now, there are many ways to ask guests for feedback. A few options that are easy to implement: a post-stay email, maybe even include a future offer with it, and request a guest to leave a review, right? To mention it personally during their stay, or when they maybe log into your Wi-Fi, there are very many platforms that allow them to offer a page which asks for feedback, okay? This feedback is extremely important. Differentiating your hotel from the competitors can be accomplished in a number of different ways. Specialization focused on a niche market is a great way to attract a different target guest that other hotels in the area might be poaching after. Also, appealing to a specific group of people allows new ways of increasing revenue by offering services and products, typically targeting someone else, okay? We have seen that focusing on attracting maybe luxury guests or being a pet-friendly accommodation can create successful financial opportunities. You can also consider becoming a family-friendly establishment or a female-friendly hotel or lodging option, or even one that serves the LGBT community. This type of strategic move allows you to create a different product offering and attract a target market that your accommodation was previously unable to capitalize on. If you're wondering why your hotel is not getting any bookings in comparison to some of your competitors, while offering maybe the same price or same services, it might be because you're not providing your customers with enough value. The accommodation sector is highly price sensitive, which means that value is essential to them. So focusing on value is key. There are two main steps to promoting your hotel and thereby highlighting its value. First of all, make sure to clearly provide an overview of your hotel's unique selling proposition. I don't need to tell you what that means, right? This will help entice your guests to book their stay. Second, keep the promise you make and ensure that the value promoted is actually delivered to the guests when they stay with you. A guest experience and review is often dependent on not only on your hotel's rooms and facilities, but on the performance of your employees. So again, as I stated previously, it is proven that engaged, empowered, and motivated employees perform better. When they perform better, they treat guests better. When guests are treated better, it adds value to the guest. I hope these strategies provided some valuable, actionable insights into how you can best increase your organization's financial status. Some are relatively easy to implement, while others might take a bit more time. In the long term, in some capacity, all are proven to pay back the effort that is invested in them and are almost guaranteed to help you increase your revenue.